candidate report for our Blooming session. As many of you probably know, this is an 11-week-long summer speaker series with some wonderful topics and interesting discussions, panelists. I'll take a moment to thank our sponsors of the series, Ambrose Industries, Region Craft, and Newcraft, who all support the series. So we're really grateful because what it does is that sponsorship allows us to talk and for free, so they're open to the public. People can have access to information and people that these are great networking events. So I encourage you to talk with each other afterwards and stay connected. A lot of wonderful connections have come out of it. So thanks for being here on the Thursday morning. Really appreciate it. I would like to introduce our speakers today. Some of these have been panels and panel discussions. Today we have a speaker, Neil Velosa, who is the Executive Director of Brown Technology Innovations. He will be giving a presentation. There will also be time for Q&A, of course. But Neil, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule from Denver to Providence. We really appreciate it. And let's give Neil a warm welcome.
Good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. My first time out here in Innovate Newport. I'm impressed by this space. I keep seeing the bones of an elementary school and getting flashbacks to St. Albert the Great and Sister Rose. This is really a fantastic venue. So thank you again for being here. I head up Brown Technology Innovations, and we are the commercialization office of Brown University. Just a brief background on myself. I've always been in this area of academic technology transfer or technology commercialization. I've been at Brown for 3.5 years now. I actually started in January 2020. It was just a fantastic time to start a new job. Nobody put pandemic in the job description. I think since then we made some nice strides over at university, and I'd love to tell you about it. Prior to Brown, I headed up the Technology Ventures office at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, where I'm based. And prior to that, I spent a good 15 years in Cleveland, Ohio. Senior Director of Cleveland Film Innovation and also with Cleveland Representation. So this area of academic tech transfer and commercialization has been very much the bulk of my career. Today, I want to talk about sort of almost from the ground up what I see in commercialization. And it takes the form of this area of patents, licensing. I'll touch on academic tech commercialization broadly, and also speak about the work that we have going on at Brown. I think, for you coming here to Innovate Newport, for the city to put the time and resources into creating such a space really shows how a lot of communities, Newport, Providence, Baltimore, Cleveland, have all really embraced innovation, startup creation, and essential to trying to grow their economy and really, raise up society. Hopefully in this talk today, you have a sense of, at least from my perspective, the bones of that. The currency that we deal with, is intellectual property, the type of transactions that we do through licensing, and the specific format of how an academic tech transfer office can lead new companies that may have impact in an area through commercialization. And I think just given the size of the group, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand or just blurt out the question, and we can keep this nice interaction. All right. Really, for me, the main currency that we deal with is patents. Patents, are one form of intellectual property. And if you can imagine at the university that does research or an academic medical institution, those ideas, that form of innovation, as I said, is really the asset or currency that we deal with. For us, that takes the form primarily around patents. And, I'm not an attorney, but just a very basic patent background. A patent is given to us by the U.S. government, embodied in the Constitution, codified in the U.S. Code, and shaped by court rulings and opinions of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. What that patent is really a monopoly granted to the government, to us, to inventors, for the work that we do in the creation of new ideas, products, and services. The patent bargain is that if you can teach others how to make and use your invention, which is really captured in the patent agreement, the government, through this issued patent, gives a monopoly that allows you to exclude others from making or using that invention without a license from you. So, for creative types, your intellectual property may be a copyright in your ideas, in your writings, in your painting. For business owners or manufacturers, your intellectual property could be a patent covering the composition matter or the method manufacture of your specific product or service. And for us at the university, for our researchers, their research is, for the most part, not for the most part, entirely put out into the public for dissemination, for education. But because of federal law, we are able to file patents around that and be able to try to commercialize it. Very briefly, just the anatomy of what a patent is. Just the bare bones of it. A patent has a title and a filing date. That filing date is important because if it comes down to arguments or disputes over who invented it and when, that filing date is very important. I spoke about, describing and showing how to make and use an invention. That's embodied in the specifications. A written description of the invention, such as if any person, ordinary skill in the art, so if I'm an academic researcher, that other researchers can understand and practice my science. If I'm a manufacturer, that other manufacturers can understand what I'm trying to convey. All of those ideas are captured in the specification, in detailed written descriptions. Finally, the heart of the patent are the claims. This points out and claims the specific subject matter of the invention. And really, at the end of the day, if we are given this monopoly for a patent from the government, what we are trying to capture is really embodied in this thing. As I have here, infringers don't infringe patents, they infringe specific claims. It comes down to a patent dispute. You've stolen my idea, you're practicing this invention after the license from me. That's what a judge, a jury, a court will look at. And the attorneys will look at are the claims. It's claims to be broad, independent claims, or to be narrow, very independent.
You're using the proof of your claims. So if you're trying to patent technology, you have to show that it works.
Yes, you do. Yes, very much so. And again, this is my only slide on patents, but in the course of getting a patent, a patent applicant, usually represented by an IP attorney, files an application, and the Patent and Trademark Office, they can look back at the other previous patents, they look at previous publications, videos, anything that may show that, your idea really is novel. It was based on some other work done to you. So in the course of that, what they call patent prosecution, you tend to suss out that, my idea is mine. Here's how I show how to make it, and yes, it actually works.
Well, I just asked, I've heard about kind of companies patenting like future technologies that they're planning on developing. So I was just kind of wondering.
Yeah. Even in the academic realm, not all of our research leads to products or services. Research for research's sake, research for education, research that may be, disproven, in the future. You can always try to file that. If you get an issued patent, that lends some form of validity or legitimacy to it. But, at the end of the day, if there is a dispute, we'll try to review to enforcement. Any other questions about that? So, I spoke about some assets of intellectual property with ideal patents. How do we transact that? Because what I really tell faculty members, inventors, is that the patent is not the problem. You know, just to say, oh, I'm a patent holder, that doesn't give you anything. Really, to commercialize your patent, you need to be able to transact it. And for us, that patent comes through this transaction, that commercialization comes through this transaction of licensing, rights to that patent. Now, what is a license? An old attorney that I worked with 20 years ago, basically only look, Neil, at the end of the day, a license is a covenant not to sue. If I have some assets, some intellectual property, somebody wants to utilize that, it's a pattern that they will assume rights to that. After that, then I can sue and protect my monopoly rights. Now, some types of license agreements that we see in the academic realm are exclusive licenses. As a patent holder, I give a license to one party exclusively, or non-exclusive licenses. I'm giving a license to multiple parties, non-exclusive. If you look at the anatomy of a license agreement, I spoke of it as a transaction, and that's really embodied here. And you can almost think of it as a sales pitch. If I'm a licensor at a university, I can have it. You're a VC, you're a company, you're a startup, you can get access to that patent. Really for us, the transaction goes this way. I want to give you the ability to make, use, have made, sell, offer to sell our technology. And we give you the ability to offer that as a sub-license to multiple other parties. And we give you the ability to go after infringers of my patent. And we give you all these things as the licensor. In exchange for that, we're looking for a couple of things. One, some sort of economic consideration. Upfront payments, equity in a startup, a milestone fee, a downstream royalty. We're looking for a diligence plan to make sure that, especially for academia, to ensure that this technology is put out there in the marketplace to benefit society, and not just put on the shelf to tax your own native product. We're looking for reporting to ensure that this is actually being done, and as a university with an endowment that we're also looking to protect, indemnification against the university for any harms or claims caused by the licensee use of that product. At the end of the day, that is the basic patent license, transaction. And that's what we try to do, every day in academic testing. Yeah, no.
That's a good question. Is there a time frame of if you get a license and a patent, is there a time frame to actually create a product?
The patent is usually good for 20 years. So, the license or the term of generally 20 years for it, because afterwards the patent expires. And then anybody can practice that IP. Yeah. So, in the case of life sciences, pharmaceuticals, it takes so long to test and make these drugs, 10, 15 years. They're really trying to utilize an entire 20-year period. With an aim that, hey, in the last 7 to 10 years left of that patent life, that's when we're able to sell it as a monopoly before it goes.
So beyond the licensing framework itself, is outright transfer of the patent or sale of the patent and other
That is a great question, yes. Assignment, transfer of ownership of a patent, is a thing that patent holders can do. If I, Neil Veloso, citizen, have a patent, I can sell that, assign that to somebody. For Neil Veloso with Brown University, assignment is rarely something that universities can do. Just by virtue of the fact that the bulk of our research is funded by federal dollars, and this Bayh-Dole Act as assignments for the university. And having the university always keep a license available to the federal government for their own use. So if I were to sell this to you or your holding company, the university is essentially give up that right and being breach of its obligation to its federal. That's fantastic. And then we chose the differences, of academic tech transfer that I do, into sort of, other way. Pretty basic, even with the question. I think we're all now, off of 4 slides where we're experts in patenting and licensing. We're not. It is a mess. I put this example here as to really show, and I wish we could zoom in and whatnot, but just to really show the inherent complexity in what seems to be a pretty straightforward transaction, but really show how that complexity can lead to the dissemination and production of some fantastic products that have truly changed the world. I have an example here, if there's life science-oriented folks here. I have an example of the CRISPR. CRISPR was a methodology developed, so I'm brought up with a question about patent developed at 2 universities that allows someone to be able to manipulate DNA and edit it at a genetic level. This just shows the evolution of all those CRISPR patents. You can see on the far left here, there are multiple CRISPR inventions from Broad Institute, from Duke, from Mass Gen, from UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley, University of Vienna, individual inventors, they all came up with various forms of CRISPR. At the end of the day, some of these people ended up suing one another over inventorship of that patent. But using that license transaction to gain rights to your patents, they were able to strike a variety of licenses to startup companies, such as Editas, or existing companies, such as Caribou Life Sciences. So we see here, original academic patent holders making licenses to a variety of companies, some of which were new startups that came from the university. Those companies, using that sub-licensing ability, then did subsequent deals with other companies here. And these are, primarily the existing strategic companies, BASF, Charles River, GE Healthcare, all the names that we know, from the marketplace. And really what you see from what seems to be a very basic transaction took this immense complexity, whereby even the existing sub-licensees were doing deals among one another. Or the startups in the center were doing sub-licenses to multiple licensees in different fields of use, all around these CRISPR patents. So, I always bring up this slide just to show the inherent complexity, that comes in the form of trying to transact this deal around the intellectual property. As you can see, the impact of CRISPR has hit us from a research level, from a therapeutic level, we've put aside of multiple ways. I think that can only come from this sort of rich and complex marketplace. Companies, startups, licensors,
So everybody from the far left who were working on these technologies around the same time, they're just slightly different patents that then funnel out. So, and does that create more difficulty as well as, bringing it to market if everybody has some aspect of the innovation?
Yeah, very much so. Let's say you're one of these larger companies on the far right side, and you want to use CRISPR in multiple areas. You may say, the Broad Institute, I can get their patent, I can use CRISPR for everything I want. But maybe upon examining the patents more closely, the Berkeley patents cover what I'm interested in. Now you may be put in a position where I need to get licenses to all these different patents in order to accomplish a do that I want to do. If I don't, and you say, oh, I got my license from Bro, I'm fine, but then you find yourself, under patent infringement from Kind of this sort of basics of IP commercialization, patents, and licensing. I want to move over to what I do, the area of academic technology. And I spoke about my career history with Brown, with Hopkins, with Cleveland Clinic, these academic medical centers. And they've always been in this academic tech transfer space, which, as we've seen from some of the questions, it has its own different sort of conventions and ways of doing it. For us, academic tech transfer was formalized by the Dole Act, which came from Bob Dole and Evan Dodd in the 1980s. For me, the transformative act. It allows universities to take titles of patents that come out of their research. Prior to that, it was almost a free flow. Government could take title to it. What would they do? Think of all the universities in the world, all these inventions, or all the universities in America, all these inventions, all having the patents within one government office. It would just be too unwieldy. It allowed universities to take title for inventions that they received federal funding for. It really created this industry, if you will, of academic tech commercialization. If you look at different models of PTOs in the university department, like my group at Brown, Technology Innovation, they could be a standalone foundation. The Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, WARF. It's a separate entity outside of the university. At the end of the day, the mission is the same. Find ways to protect intellectual property from our faculty members and transact them through licensing and make new products of the members. I think the benefits of academic tech transfer have been very profound. This is a figure from our professional society, the Association of University Technology Managers, audit. That just shows for 2021, the most recent data, all the ways that tech transfer has touched society. Just starting from around the 1 o'clock position, there's been around 23,000 invention disclosures among all auto members in the U.S. 15,000 new patent applications filed, 8,000 being issued, 10,300 licenses and options being executed around all this IP. These are the new startups, the new potential products, the existing companies, all the new ideas that are unlocked through this area of academic tech transfer. Ultimately leading to 794 new products being created, and especially for us nowadays, the formation of 996 new startup companies. All of this coming out of academic research, and really trying to find a way to unlock the value, aside from the research and educational value of academic work, from that $81.9 billion of research expenditures that universities spend every year. I'm going to talk about the impact of startups later on in my talk. But as you can see, the states like Newport, the CIC building up in Providence, you can see communities looking to embrace new startups, find a way to generate more of them because they can not only make new products, they can benefit their community as well, through job creation and things like that. Taking a look at how tech transfer offices, PTOs, operate. They're somewhat like a business, in other ways we're not. We have customers, like any business, but for academic tech transfer offices, we have this, in my mind, this unique two-customer model. We not only serve the patent buyers, the VCs, the new startup owners, the companies looking to get access to our IP, but we also serve our other customer, the faculty members. My office, we are a service to our faculty members. Hopefully the work that we do, can not only unlock their research, turn it into a product, but even at a more basic level, we can help recruit, retain, and grow faculty members who want to come to work with us around the university. We're seeing that increasingly nowadays, sort of these very powerful research labs, many postdocs and grad students, if you're going to move from University X to Brown or whatever place, many faculty members now really check to see that they have a robust tech transfer function. Because, in addition to tenure or publication or, the size of my lab, the work that we do is important to them. It really shows the reach of that impact. I spoke about startup funding, and I've been doing this long enough that when I first started 20 years ago, the big dream, if you will, the big goal for a tech transfer office was to find some research, protect it with a patent, and license it to a large strategic company. When I started out at Case Western, my goal was to find the next big drug and license it to a big pharma or a major biotech. As large companies have increasingly outsourced or sort of pushed back their own internal R&D, there's been less of an appetite for direct licensing and admitting early stage research in the university. And more of a focus on the later stage, the things that they do best, manufacturing, moving through regulatory hurdles, marketing, sales, and follow-up. We've allowed a lot of drug development to be taken on by earlier stage biotech and also startup companies. So for us as a TCO, we had to shift our focus from looking to license a large existing company and focus more on new startup programs. What may have been sort of a simple transaction, I have a patent, I can market it, I can come to licensee, it's really turned into, a very sort of complex series of activities that we do. We're looking to incubate new startup companies, giving a chance to grow and find funding. Even before that, we're looking to identify new entrepreneurs that we could pair with our faculty members. For someone who could form a startup together, faculty member being on the research side and the entrepreneur being on the business side. All of these activities, I never imagined that we could do. Increasingly, universities have not only, sought federal funding for our work, which is the bulk of our research support, but also we developed product development funds to really sort of fill that gap between what is a good early stage research invention to something that becomes more attractive for research translation. If you look at the future of tech transfer, I spoke about starting out in my career and focusing on big companies. For our current work on startups, there's the future of academic tech commercialization going. One, we've seen this sort of backlash to commercialization. That universities just pumping out startups that really don't have any real prospects behind them. Something that's just an address or a PO box, but may have a patent, but really no means to operationalize it, grow that, and feel so. There's some cases where a university put off 60 startups in a year. There was touting their accomplishments and beating their chest. Someone took the time to look at the incorporation docs of those companies and found that a majority of them all had one address, that academic tech transfer office. Those aren't really real companies. And ultimately, that's a disservice because I don't think that can unlock the value of that research. And, most probably won't be any real products and services academics. That being said, at least what I've seen in terms of the future of academic tech commercialization has been an increasing interest by early-stage investors to engage with universities. A big sort of a big moment in tech commercialization occurred in the early 2000s when pharma companies were striking multi-year research agreements with universities. The 5-year CPI program, well known around there. But probably around the 2010, we started to see more venture investors. The people who really focused on investing in startups began to engage with universities and spread their same multi-year research. When I was at Johns Hopkins, we signed the first agreement with Deerfield Management, which is a large investment firm. I wanted to work with the university over many years, see research with the idea that if any new discoveries came out of it, that they would be there to help grow the startups and really allow them to be able to invest in terms of new companies. We've seen that model grow as other early-stage investors are not only looking to sort of invest in companies in the traditional VC round, but engage with a variety of universities, around supporting research with the hope that it would lead to this. Let me bring our focus to our work here at Brown and what we do. We focus on tech commercialization. You can see all the elements of everything that I described sort of captured here. We do IP licensing of Brown technology to existing companies. You will find Brown technology and products and services from such companies Onto, Oxford Nanopore, and BlackRock. We also, on the far right, we look to facilitate industry-sponsored research between companies looking to access the expertise and knowledge of our faculty and to support research specialists. Increasingly, our focus has been on the creation of new startup companies based around Brown. Looking to identify entrepreneurs to work with our faculty, looking to protect the IP, engaging with early-stage investors and VCs to provide financing, and working with places like Internet News Corp and CIC so that there's a home for these new startups. Do everything we could to try to unlock the value of that IP, in the form of a new startup. Our team here, Brown has made a great investment in supporting commercialization. We've been able to build out our team. We have folks covering every aspect of research going on at Brown, from life sciences, to engineering, to physical sciences, to med tech. We have an accelerator fund that can provide that research translation funding. Really the university doing its utmost to try to unlock the value of it. And the idea that the concept that we've been operating around is this thinking of, let's focus on ideas, funding, and people to grow new Brown startups. I spoke about the inventions going on at Brown. Now we have over $250 million a year in research funding. We have over 90 to 100 invention disclosures. We have accelerator funds that can help do later stage research and kind of move from early academic stage to something that's more commercially effective. We have a patent budget that allows us to file new patent applications to try to find the protect that we get for funding. On the people side, we have two programs. One is called Entrepreneur Connect, where we have engaged with over 120 at this point, serial entrepreneurs, people who have operating experience in startups that we want to matchmake with our faculty. And hopefully working together, we can develop a relationship and rapport to go in together on a new startup company. On the people side, we've also looked to engage with our graduate students and postdocs. For many graduate students and postdocs, they think about startups as a new route for their careers, as opposed to going, to a, traditional strategic company or consulting. Many of these students nowadays think about their first job after grad school as being, part of a startup. And finally, to our venture capital engagement initiatives, we look to, really develop good relationships with early stage VCs, make them aware of all the research going on at ground, understand their areas of interest so that when that next new publication or research comes out of our faculty members, we'll begin to know, this entrepreneur has interest in that area, or that VC has invested before in this space. All this comes together to form these startup companies, that can help commercialize. I think the results have been very promising in the 2.5 years. We've developed a nice portfolio of ground startups covering all facets of university research, from the high-tech and deep-tech space, with companies like Adept Materials that make smart materials for sustainable construction. They have a coating that allows buildings to breathe, and by allowing the building to breathe, you can regulate your energy costs, and impact the environment in a positive way. We've had AI companies like Analytica and DeepLight, and we've had medical device companies like Research Instruments Corporation. And the life science companies on the right, a lot of those new startups really utilize Brown's focus on neuroscience oriented research. Companies like Transposon, which has retro-transposon inhibitors for neurodegenerative diseases, or a company like Golden Therapeutics, which uses neurogenesis to treat conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. These life science startups really have come forth from Brown's great tradition of neuro-oriented research. Additionally, we've entered into new spaces like regenerative medicine, with companies like XM Therapeutics. And the second company, Ocean Biomedical, they recently went public. So, they're traded on the stock exchange. And they're one of the companies that were able to sort of open up the SPAC market after it hit its trade. I think this example of this growing diverse portfolio really shows that the university's efforts to support commercialization, encourage the growth of other companies, is beginning to do. And finally, I just want to talk about that impact with commercialization, of how these startups can look to impact specific communities in the region. We're beginning to see that now in the innovation and design, also known as the Jewelry District in Providence, which is, moving from its roots as a manufacturing space to one in the middle, or sort of just a place for the highway to cut through, hopefully into an area that will become a new home for high-growth startups. The university has made a very serious investment, not only in research, but also in economic development. Brown has entered into public-private projects to build a new integrated life science building, to lease space in new buildings that are being put up in the Jewelry District. And really trying to set the stage for a future where this increase in research by the university can lead to new startup companies that will take shop here in the Jewelry District, providing good benefits, economic development benefits to the community. Maybe for a new grad student or a finishing grad student or postdoc, instead of going up north for their first biotech job in Boston, they could join the startup company. So we're beginning to see those things right now. And it's really, for me and my team, it's an honor for us, one, to work with these faculty researchers, to be sort of a witness to the brilliance of their research. And hopefully through the work that we do with commercialization startups, I try to expand and grow our opportunities. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer further questions that you may have.
Feel that the valuable act is a great example of what good things can happen when Democrats and Republicans work together. Bob Dole of Kansas and Birch Five.
Yeah. Birch Five, I said Evan Five, that's Birch Five.
The Democrat from Indiana. And signed into law in the final weeks of Jimmy Carter's administration. There's a part of that law that allows for so-called marching rights.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether any of the places you've worked, any of, let's say, around us, a license agreement with something, with a patent. And the licensee allegedly isn't really doing much to develop the potential.
Yeah.
That allows for third parties to, I guess, petition the patent office to allow third parties to march in or really do something with this. And no march-in petition has ever been approved.
That's right.
And I just wonder whether any of the places you've worked you've been involved in, at least indirectly, with these march-in debates.
Yeah, because I'm part of that Professional Society Audit Association of University Technology. I've always been sort of aware and kept apprised of sort of challenges to the Bible Act, and in particular, marketing rights. I think for us, the concern becomes that you don't want to limit, the impact of innovation. You don't want to de-incentivize people from trying to commercialize their technology. At a more extreme level, kind of set prices to things, to vehicles like market rights. The concern is that what would be the motivation for an investor to invest in a risky early-stage project, or a large strategic company to acquire and take on that responsibility with the potential is sort of community.
That's right. A marching petition is based on a company developing a product like a drug, setting a very high price. And the marching says it's priced so high it's not available. So, as you say, that's sort of a tricky issue to grant a marching based on opinion prices.
Yeah. We need to look at, and I talked about sort of the anatomy of license agreements. One way that I've had to approach it was on a different level, with the idea of the marching rights being utilized to ensure the dissemination of the technology, that it's not being put on the shelf. That could be a situation where if we have a cure for some disease, just be put on the shelf because some company wants to protect this other product. That may be a case where marketing could be utilized. For us, we try to address that in the license agreement. Have due diligence provisions that ensure that any company or startup is actually trying to commercialize our work, and not just put it on the shelf to protect their own personal. Great question.
Brown has been actively involved in a group that's trying to get Rhode Island designated as a communication tech hub. And so I'm curious what kind of technology Brown is working on, and I'm also very curious to hear your perspective of the opportunities and challenges for commercialization in the United States.
Blue technology? Yeah. We have researchers, particularly in our more the engineering side of the house or the science side of the university. Their research can predict tides, and really with a variety of sort of climate-oriented applications. So Brown is very active in that space. As URI, they are just a powerhouse of deep innovation. So Brown and URI at the highest level, to my level, we're finding ways to work together on various initiatives. Various government grant applications, hubs that to try to unlock some of the deep tech research. I think it's for Rhode Island, trying to address all these different market areas is a good strategy. You've all heard talk of, where's the spillover effect of all the Boston Cambridge biotech coming into our space. We're seeing that with incubators in Manchester. We're seeing that in the innovation district in Providence. where, we're trying to open up the facilities and the research to make that more of a attractive place for biotech. But in parallel, we're just addressing things like weakness as well. Without any sort of putting all our eggs in one basket and taking more of this and hopefully, beyond blue tech, beyond biotech, there will be other technologies in the forefront that is good.
I'm aware that a lot of the universities are starting programs, majors and minors in innovation and entrepreneurship. What is Brown's strategy to attract, the undergrads to this space? And because it's still pretty new for them to, I think a lot of students interested in startups major in business. So it's moving in a different direction. So what's Brown's strategy on that?
Yeah, Brown has been very active, and I would say very successful in that sort of entrepreneurship education area. Our Nelson Center of Entrepreneurship, headed up by Danny Warship, who recently wrote a book called Seed, Salt, Scale, and on how to grow startups. They really focus on undergraduate experience, developing students to understand entrepreneurship and become more sort of adept and aggressive in that space. We've seen companies like Casper, the Metrics company, and others who actually came out of, Brown students looking to commercialize their own ideas. From my perspective, there is a divide in that faculty research, that's supported by the government, etc. Those patents are assigned to Brown. Students, and my son's a student at Brown, students get to keep their own intellectual property. So that if they have that great idea, unfortunately, it's not really mine to work with. It's more of that for the students to commercialize something. But yeah, entrepreneurship is a growing area. I think it's very popular major concentration. Great. Well, I want to thank everybody again for their time. Real pleasure talking to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to have you here. We look forward to seeing you in the future. We'll do sessions next week. We're going to hear from Billy Tallheimer, who is the CEO of Regent's Craft, which is a very new and exciting technology in sea glider. That's going to, I think, transform transportation on the seacoast. And then we've got one on sharks. Got a few coming down the pipe, so I hope to see you all there. But please, we have some more coffee and pastries. Stick around, chat with each other. Neil, you'll stick around for a little bit. We've got to get on the road back to Rockhouse. But thanks for being here. Thank you again.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
But I